assuming that you diligently attended and completed your research methods course, which is a big component of this research project. And this is also an additional reason, amongst other reasons, why Professor Matangano is here, because he takes you on research methodology. So you are already aware that you need to provide your research topics. Unfortunately, you came up with your topics without much guidance. So the way we do it is that you submit your research topics, and then we identify a supervisor based on the topic that you have submitted. Now, the first thing that you have to do, once you get the supervisor's name, which will be given to you today, isn't it? Yeah. It will be given to you today, hopefully by the end of the day. So the first thing that you have to do is to call your supervisor. The supervisor will be notified and will have your topic. So what we expect is that the first meeting or the first discussion you will have with your supervisor is to look at the topic, whether the topic is doable, whether it makes sense, whether it is broad, needs to be more specific. That responsibility has been given to your supervisor to help you refine your topic or to understand. And it's very important that you should seek an audience with your supervisor. That audience is important because once he or she understands what was in your mind when you were thinking of this topic, what went on in your mind, maybe he or she can help you to say, this is what you wanted to do, but if this is what you wanted to do, we can do the topic in this way. We can, the topic that can fit your ideas and your desires should look like this. So what you have submitted is not, sometimes can be accepted, sometimes you may ask to be changed, to change the topic, whatever. It depends on that discussion you have. So as a preamble to our today's discussion, it is very, very important that you talk to your supervisor, you meet with your supervisor. Please don't ignore this advice I'm giving you. Remember that being assisted is your right. Being assisted is your right as a student. And this supervision, we expect it to be super and to help you. If you are having problems, the first thing is no, never get tired. If the supervisor is not responding, please. A student who excels is the one who puts effort. So put an effort if the supervisor is looking, until you meet, until you discuss. If you still have problems, despite several reminders, the officers who are here will help you. Okay? Contact the Dean of Students, contact Professor Masangano, contact me, and we will do something about it. There are several things that we can do to help you if you are supervised. Where you want. Okay? This is not the right thing to have. Right? So, we understand, but still claim your right. Okay? Me as the research coordinator, I'm there to make sure that you are assisted, make sure that supervisors do their work. So if things will reach that extent, contact me. And the Dean of Students is also around. Now, the job that we have today is to discuss
how you go about writing your research paper, your research proposal. So what is the proposal? What is the proposal? What is a proposal? Is it running away? So basically your proposal is how you plan to do this. Okay, the proposal is basically trying to put your ideas, how you do this research. So the reason it has 3 chapters is because, one, we want to know what your research is all about. Tell the reader what your research is all about. Number 2, what have you read? Number 3, how will you do the research? So basically, this is the plan that you are presenting. What is your research about? What preliminary readings have you done about this research? And how do you intend to conduct it? And this is why the research proposal comes in 3 chapters. So it's in a nutshell, it's just you are organizing your ideas. You are presenting your ideas about this research. Okay? So when you are saying, what is this research about? It means you definitely tell us about what is your topic. Okay? How did you come up with this topic? What went into your mind? What did you read? What did you hear? Okay? What are your objectives? So basically, you are presenting a very systematic presentation of your ideas to the reader, and in this case also to the university. And that's why you are making a proposal, and the university can either say go ahead or don't, or change course. Okay? So it's about the one who is going to read, the audience, people who will learn from your research. Explain your ideas, present them in a systematic manner. Okay? So who is your client? The audience, people who might benefit from your research. So the way it looks like is the way we are trying to present here. So the first chapter is definitely the title. Okay? The title, sometimes referred to through the communication that we have had, is the topic. I don't know, what's the difference between the title and the topic, Professor? the title, okay, the topic. Okay? Now, background. Before the background, for every, this sometimes is confusing to some people. This first chapter after the title, you have chapter 1. This first chapter, unfortunately or fortunately, is also called introduction. Okay? So, you have chapter 1. Is it colon? Is it colon or semicolon? What do you call these two dots? Huh? Colon, yeah? Yeah, colon. Samvundura, eh? Yeah. Colon, okay? Introduction. So this chapter, which is called chapter 1, starts with introduction. That's the name of the chapter. Now you have chapter 1, colon, introduction. Below it, you have to have introduction of that chapter. Are we clear? Chapter 1 is called introduction. So chapter 1, dot, dot, introduction. Then you have introduction of that chapter. Okay? Now, in terms of me assisting you with what to expect in an introduction in the introduction chapter. Introduction, I'm sure you have been learning quite a lot in the in your program, basically for English, for academic writing, and blah 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 blah. Right? You know what an introduction does. So introduction will introduce what the reader should expect in that chapter. Very similar to a summary. Okay? A summary that comes before the stuff is called an introduction. And then you have a summary. Do we always have introduction and chapter and summary looking similar? Maybe the past tense, the tenses are different. Because introduction, you will say what you are gonna do in that chapter. And then in the summary, you say what you have done in that chapter. Right? Yeah. Now, in that introduction, explain what the reader will find in that chapter. So, definitely, things like background will be in that introduction, that you talk about the background, you talk about problem statement, you talk about all these in that introduction, so that the reader knows what to expect. Okay? Now let's go to the actual stuff. Background of the study. Here we expect you to tell us what you have read, what you have heard, what has influenced you to choose this topic, to choose this type. So for example, you are saying, we want to, my topic is investigating the impact of the valuation on small scale traders in area 36. That's your topic. So in the background, you are expected to talk about what you have seen in area 36, what you know about these small businesses. What have you read? What has happened? So you talk about, oh, there has been a devaluation and blah, 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 and you have, and then you can also introduce some literature there as well. For example, you can quote some people who have talked about devaluations and small businesses briefly. So what you have seen, you have heard, you have read, background to this story that you are trying to this topic that you are trying to investigate. You are investigating the impact of devaluation on these small businesses in Area 36. So tell us about Area 36. Okay, what is it? Where is it? Okay, what are the small businesses they are doing? What have other people said about them? So all this information is what you put in your background, trying to set a stage for you to indicate what the problem is, what the information that is lacking is gonna look like. So you are basically warming up the reader to some big things to come. Okay? So what are the big things to come? Is what we call the research problem, sometimes just referred to as problem statement. Problem statement is a research problem. We put it like this, like problem statement. It is a research problem. It's a why do we do a research? Maybe I should draw you back. So for example, if we are saying we want to investigate the impact of devaluation in Area 36 on small businesses, somebody will say, is this a research? Is there a problem? Why don't you just go and read? Why don't you Google? Why don't you just ask people who know? Why do you waste time and resources to go out there and find out why, when you can just as well read? Okay? So you have to justify. There must be a problem. There must be a research gap. There must be that all the questions that you have in your mind are not being answered by either going to read or asking some experts. Some of your questions can still not be answered. And that's why you want to find out. Now, problem statements is a research problem, a research gap. It is not a development problem. A research problem is not a development problem. Okay? So if you are saying that there are so many poor people in Area 36, that's why I want to go and find out, do a research. Yeah, there are many poor people there. It's a development problem. It's not a research gap. So research gap or problem statement can come in several formats. I'm sure you'll be discussing this with your supervisors. What kind of gaps are acceptable in a research paper? There are so many gaps that you can identify. Maybe just quickly, I can talk about a few of them. It can be an empirical research gap. When we say empirical, we are talking about studies. People have done studies on, for example, devaluations, for example. Okay? An empirical could be that there are so many people who have done impacts of devaluation, but they never looked at, no study is talking about in a peri-urban small businesses. So which means that you have tried to look around any papers written on impact of devaluation, but no study shows any findings in a specific location, for example. That too can be what we also call a geographical gap as well. meaning that a lot of studies have been done in urban areas and no one has done in a rural area such as Ntalire. Could be geographical. It could be methodological gap. Meaning, for example, sometimes that is referred to as a population gap. So, for example, you can say that this study only interviewed, asked old people. There was nobody who asked views of young people. So there's the methodology they used, the population they used does not give us the answers. I think maybe the answers could be different if we use a different set of population. Okay, so there are so many of these gaps. Fortunately for you guys, just go, just Google, right? You will see, type research gaps, types of research gaps. You will see a lot of stuff on the internet. Okay, but your supervisor is gonna help you if you are stuck. Now, another important area is, what are your intentions? What are your objectives? What do you want to achieve by doing this research? So the general, you may have the general, what we call general objective, which is usually the same as the title, the same as the topic. So I am saying I want to investigate the impact of devaluation on small businesses in area 36. That is the topic. That is also the general objective, the general aim of your research. But specifically, what do you want to know? I want to know, for example, how this has impacted on their profit margins. I want to know if the impact is felt differently amongst different genders. I want to know, is the effect different for different kinds of businesses? You can be in a small business but doing different businesses. So those are specifics now. Your general objective is to find or to discover the impact. But specifically, you want to see or discover. Remember, this research problem has told us, if you explain it if you put it very clear, the research problem has already told us what will be your contribution to this general problem that you are trying to address. Okay? Now, research questions, you just turn those research questions into, those research objectives into research questions. So, research objectives usually start with the word to investigate if devaluation is affecting everybody equally. To investigate, to analyze, to whatever. Now, research questions, you just turn those into questions. If you have 3 specific objectives, you will have 3 questions. Never, ever have 2 objectives and 10 questions. Where are they coming from? Please. If you have 3 specific objectives, there will be 3 questions. What are the questions? The questions are the ones which are trying to help you to find the answers. They are also going to help you develop a questionnaire. They are based on your objectives. So if you are saying, to find out if the research, if your objective is to find out if the valuation has affected everybody equally or not. So what will be your questions? Your question will be, has the valuation affected people the same way or differently? Okay? So I've just turned the objective to a question. And that one question can make you develop many questions in the questionnaire. Okay? If your study is testing theories or models and the like, you may actually have different setup. It might be that your objective is not necessarily specified in the way we have outlined here, like testing a model, testing a theory. You have hypotheses that narrow hypothesis, alternative hypothesis. Okay? So it's different. We understand that you may have your paper might be different from these social science kind of research. If you are doing more scientific research papers, this format we're talking about here does not come in the same way. It's modifications there. Okay? Now, you need to have a section which is talking about justification. Okay? Justification is basically you trying to convince us that I think this research would be useful. So just say something about why you are justified to choose this topic and this research paper, this research proposal. Okay? Literature review is usually what I have said. In a proposal, it's just talking about what you have read. We want to know what work have you done so far in terms of reading, in terms of, for example, the theory that is helping you to study this. So, for example, if we are talking about studying the effect of devaluation, if you are studying the effect of devaluation, you should explain what devaluation is. So define all the terminologies that you have. Explain the concepts in your literature review. Okay? And find out what theories can help you understand the impact of devaluation. So what have people said about devaluation? The scholars. Here we are talking about people with authority. Don't quote me, and I have not published any document on devaluation. You cannot say, according to my Mr. Msisha, my lecturer. No. It has to be somebody who has talked about devaluation. Explain the word devaluation. Explain the word businesses. Explain what you mean by small businesses. Well, define. And what theories are there? Why do countries devalue? What is devaluation? What is an exchange rate? You go deep into this subject of devaluation and also explain what you mean by small businesses. Don't just explain yourself, but also use people who have written about small businesses. So we expect you to have a lot of in-text citations. Okay? Maybe you can use the whole quote. I don't know. Is it acceptable for you? Yeah. You can use the whole quote from a book, if it is nice and you like it, you quote some book and a page, for example, where you have got it. So explain just like you do when you are writing assignments, but this is deeper. Okay, find a literature, find theories that talk to the evaluation, for example. So if you are talking about child development, or is it I don't know, help me. Child development, you talk about Antaminama, those people who have written about child development. What are the theories behind child development? So you choose topics that, authors that are actually helping you to understand the topic you have chosen. Okay? And that's what we call the theoretical base. Okay? The theoretical base. What is helping you to understand when you are talking about evaluation or child development, early child development? If you are talking about gender abuse, if you are talking about school dropouts, if you are talking about marketing, why customers sometimes leave a company, a particular product, what are the theories behind there? Who have written about those things? Okay? Now, once you do that, go down to specific now. Talk about people who have studied the evaluation in a particular area. What specific? Which we call sometimes empirical. This work specific to the study is sometimes referred to as empirical review. Yeah. Empirical studies. So here you talk about your friends who have also been reported on devaluation in Brantaya, effects of devaluation in Birande, effect of devaluation in Tanzania, whatever. So there you have to show that you are an academic. You are not just Buruk. You are somebody who now can share with the reader that you have read other people's research papers, summarize them. So and so did research on devaluation in Lusaka, and this is what they found. So and so did the effect of devaluation in Maputo. This is what they found. We want to see that in your paper. Shows you have read. Apart from reading theories and concepts which you have outlined in the theory base, also talk about what others have written. Okay? That's the empirical thing. Yeah, sure.
Empirical studies help you in a number of ways. That's where you also demonstrate how that others did their study. You are planning to do your own study. How did these people do their studies? So when you are coming to the methodology, you can show that the methodology you are coming up with is informed by your colleagues who have done similar studies. Empirical studies will also help you, as my colleague was saying, this is what they did, this is what they found. When you make your own findings, later on when you are reporting those findings, you'll be required to discuss them, you'll be required to interpret them. You can also learn from what your colleagues did and place yourself, discuss your results accordingly. Empirical studies can actually help you in the definition of the gap in the problem statement. Empirical studies can help you. That's why you can be able to say Victor conducted a study on the impact of devaluation. He only investigated this aspect. Sisha did it, but has investigated this aspect. Masangano did it, investigated this, but nobody has investigated this other aspect, and I'm going to investigate that. So you articulate the gap. Is this one learning from us? The student, Memory, we are listening to you too. Even when my colleague was talking about the hypothesis objectives, you don't just come up with those things. You also learn from how your colleagues did them. And that can help you say, when Victor was doing his study in Blantyre, he investigated this objective and this is what he found. Could this be an explanation to the gap I found in Tandire? I'll also investigate this objective. So those empirical studies play a very important role as you are studying them. Actually, when you're presenting them, you present them in such a way that they will help to guide your own way.
Yeah. So that's why it is very important that you show that you have read quite a lot. And just to cement what Professor Masangano had said, remember in the background, we said what you have read, okay? Now you try to expand this in this chapter 2, okay? It helps you to understand what is not understood. Are we together? It helps you understand what is not understood. Because that which is not understood is the research problem. It's what justifies you to waste time and money going out there and find answers. Remember, I told you that you can as well read if there is a problem, something you don't understand. Why don't you just read? But this chapter tells us that despite all the reading that you have done, there's still something missing. And there's still some information which is not there, which you will contribute. You will find out that information. So everybody can gain. That's why research papers which are well written get published. You can publish your paper if you come up with results that bring us opens our mind about a particular issue. Your supervisor can say, this paper, and recommend it to the research team to say, let's consider publishing this latest research paper because of the contribution you have made. Okay? So, this chapter is very important. Now, with what people have written and what you have read, theories and all that, you should be now equipped to do this research and explain the relationship that you anticipate. So you will be able to explain what are the causes of the suffering. Is this what has devaluation done to these small businesses? So you should be able to develop your own relationship between devaluation and the suffering of these small businesses. And that's what we